and welcome everybody. We're so pleased to have you here on this snowy afternoon in Toronto, even though we are joining each other online. And I'm really pleased that we are, because I think we would have had to cancel if we had been joining each other in person today. My name is Hilary Inwood. I'm the coordinator of the Sustainability and Climate Action Network at the Ontario Institute for Studies in Education at the University of Toronto. And I'm so pleased to be here in partnership with my dear colleagues at the Toronto District School Board, who are part of the Sustainability Office and the Eco Schools team. So I'd like to introduce you to Pam Miller, who's going to co-host with me today. Pam is the instructional leader for the Eco Schools program. Hi, Pam.
Hey, it's so great to finally be co-hosting. It was just like, it's nice to be hanging around our family of AQ alumni and environmental champions. It's so great to be here.
And I'd also like to introduce people to both Jen Vetter and Chris Metropolis, who are phenomenal members of the Eco Schools team at the Toronto District School Board, and also to the members of our SCAN team of Tian Pham is here and Melissa Pan. So really happy to have them helping out in the background as well. We've got a great session for you today. In amongst all the snow that's arriving outside as we speak, we're looking at how we're going to be rebuilding. We know that EcoTeams took a pretty bad hit during the pandemic, and many of you are working on rebuilding your EcoTeams at this point, or some of you might be starting from scratch in your schools as well, because we know a lot of teachers moved schools during the pandemic. So we're going to have some words of wisdom and some strategies shared by 4 terrific teachers who work on EcoTeams in their schools in the Toronto District School Board. And we'll introduce them to you in just one sec. I do encourage you to do the entry poll when you come in. Please just tell us a little bit about who you are. We always love learning about who's in the room. You're also more than welcome to pop into the chat as an introduction to yourself, who you are, and maybe what school or what grade levels you teach at. We'd be really lovely to hear a little bit more about you too in that regard. We always start off with just a little overview. This is what you can expect. We've got as I said, 4 amazing teachers: Cynthia Roulston, Melody Hamdule, Matthew Kinasz, and Alexandra Goumakos are all with us in the Zoom room today to help you learn a little bit more about their EcoTeams practice. We are going to begin, though, with a land acknowledgement. And, we often do artistic land acknowledgements to help introduce you to a range of Indigenous artists and their viewpoints. So today I'd like to introduce you to Quinn Hopkins. And I purposefully brought this work in to start because it is one of our newest works by an Indigenous artist. It's been installed on U of T campus. So you can go anytime. That Heart House is open. It's a publicly accessible building. You can find this work near the cafe, and it's called Intertribal. Now, Quinn is an emerging artist. He's inspired by new innovative technologies, and he likes to connect them with the land and his roots, and it's as an Anishinaabe person. He utilizes technologies such as 3D modeling, digital drawing, editing, creative coding, and machine learning as he collaborates with the computer to research, design, and create his works of art. And this particular mixed media art installation that's on view at Heart House includes a mural, a light sculpture. It's a really beautiful neon piece. And it also has an augmented reality feature that you can pick up through your phone as well, which is really beautiful. It depicts the May Res powwow at Fort York, and it's set against the iconic Toronto skyline. The eagle that can be seen soaring above the crowd in this really beautiful, striking sky offers a reminder of the importance of love, which is, of course, one of the 7 grandfather teachings that guide Anishinaabe through their lives, and I think guide many of us through our lives, in fact, as well. So it's something that I think we can all say we share. So we acknowledge that we're hosted on the lands of the Mississaugas of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and the Wendat. We also recognizing the enduring presence of all First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples on this land. Good reminder, that is the TDSB's land acknowledgement, but a good reminder to all of us that it's not so much the land acknowledgement that's important, but the enacting of the land acknowledgement. What are we doing in our own practice as educators and as humans to work towards decolonization and reconciliation? So I encourage you to think about that as we go through today's sessions and how we can actually build that practice right into the work that we do with our EcoTeams. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing screen, and I'm going to invite Pam to introduce our first speaker.
Great. So our first speaker is Matt Kinasz. I just found out that his principal has been asking for report cards early, so he's actually got them done. So woohoo to you, Matt. That's pretty impressive. Having done report cards last year, I don't envy you with the new software. But Matt is a fourth year primary junior teacher, and you say you've taught everything from kindergarten to grade 8, which is pretty impressive in 4 years. And I'm sure that's a lot of supply work as well. You're currently teaching a grade 6-7 split class and has just started a new eco team at his school, Lambton Park Community School, which is in the West End. In his spare time, you enjoy hiking and playing hockey. All right, take it away, Matt.
All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you, Pam, and thank you, Hillary, for those lovely introductions. So yes, I'm Matt, or Matthew, as Nick says. Kids call me Mr. K at school, so you want to call me that? Sure. Just before I get going, I do have to mention that I did work with both Hillary and Pam in the past, so all of the strategies I'm going to be sharing today, or any of the ideas you may have heard from me, come from the very best. So shout out to you ladies as well. Yeah, so like Pam and Hillary mentioned, I am a fourth year teacher, so working with a 6-7 split, which I have to be honest is a very, very weird split. But our eco team is derived from the junior students in our school. So we go from grade 5 to grade 8, right? In case you haven't heard of my school, it's a very, very small school in the West End. There's actually no more than 250 kids in the school. So creating an eco team in the past, we actually found to be a bit of a challenge, mostly because, so few kids, not many of them care about the environment outside of school. Not many of them are introduced to the environment outside of school. So that was the big problem that we had with our eco team. And the teacher who ran it last year actually found something very similar. Like all these kids were like, oh, cool, the eco team. But then by like the third meeting, they would stop showing up. So that was kind of our challenge when we were recreating our eco team this year, or reinvigorating it, so to speak. So we came in with a brand new approach, brand new system, brand new ideas, brand new teachers, all of it. And it seems to be working pretty well, if I'm being honest. So what I'm going to do today is I'm just going to kind of elaborate on some of the strategies myself and my brilliant team of colleagues have come up with to kind of get kids more involved in the eco team, but not only just to get involved in the environment, but actually have a sense of community and involvement in that team as well. So I'm going to be going through a lot in a very short time. So please bear with me. The first one that me and my colleagues kind of do whenever we're doing an eco meeting or starting our eco team is making kids more familiar with nature and giving them an entry point into the environment. So bringing nature and community into the meetings is a really big thing that we do. One thing I didn't mention in my introduction that I probably should have was that I also teach at High Park in my spare time. And one of the things that we do there is we try to get kids to connect with nature in a new way. So we ask the question, like, what's something cool that you've seen in nature? We do the same thing with our eco team whenever we have a meeting, and it's just a way for kids to get an entry point into the content that we're talking about. So anyone can see something that they've seen in nature, like I saw a dog, I saw a salmon jumping in the Humber River the other day, I picked up a stick. We get all kinds of answers, but everybody has a way to answer them. And as we started like building momentum with the team, what we really started doing was inviting other people in the community to like share with us. So we invited teachers to share what they saw. We invited the kids to go home and ask their parents something cool that they've seen. And each meeting, we kind of reintroduce it. We bring like, oh, look what this person saw. Look what this kid saw. And of course, I can talk about all of this all day, but I can actually show you as well. So that one's actually mine. I'm not going to lie. So the one on the left, I don't think we can ask questions because we don't have any time. But I was on a hike and ran into a wild turkey in the middle of the road. So we brought that into our meeting and kids were talking about it the rest of the day. Like, I didn't know turkeys are in Etobicoke. I didn't know I could even find a turkey in Toronto. Can you eat that turkey? What can we protect that turkey? All kinds of stuff. But it was a great way to kind of get our meeting going, get kids talking about nature, get kids talking with each other about the environment. The second one I want to share is actually a video that a parent sent in. And honestly, it's one of the most adorable things I've ever seen. So imagine how I'm reacting to that and how kids would react to it when they saw this. There's a group of baby skunks hanging out with their mom and running all over the place. This is the best part. They got like right up to the door. Oh, it's so cute. There's actually a second part to this video where one of the skunks actually kisses the person's cat. Really cute. But again, it kind of is a way, it's an entry point for all students. And it was a way to bring a community member into our little eco team as well, right? And when parents started hearing about the way that we're connecting their kids to nature, they wanted more involvement as well. We started getting emails, we started getting texts, we started getting calls talking about all this great stuff. We already got parents volunteering to help out in any way, like if we're doing any gardening, if we're doing any stewardship outside. As you'll see later on, one of our big things is that we go on a lot of excursions in our neighborhood, and parents were already volunteering to do that. So just getting kids and the community and their family members to connect with nature is one strategy that is really, really good just for bringing people in. It provides an excellent entry point, and it gets people really excited about the environment as well. The second thing that our little reinvigorated eco team really wanted to focus on this year was student leadership. So like I said, in the past, I worked with Pam in eco schools, and when I went to different schools to audit them and see what their programs were like, this was the one that always caught my eye and the one that I always got really excited about when I wanted to lead an eco team. Giving students the opportunity to lead any environmental initiative, any eco project, it gets them really invested in it. It's not you telling them what to do, it's them getting to choose what initiatives they care about, what they're passionate about. And as we all know, as educators, whenever a kid gets passionate about something, they can run with it for miles. So what we really want to focus on our eco team is giving students that leadership. So what we do is, we had a bunch of goals, like make our school more eco-friendly. This was actually from our presentation, so I won't go through it. But we came up with squads. So we came up with the idea, big general ideas, like waste management, energy management, gardening and planting, and social media and letting people know what the eco team does. And through this, each kid got to sign up. These are just a run through of all of our squads. Each student signed up for something that they were passionate about. If they wanted to plant and garden, they could sign up for that. If they wanted to communicate and promote about the environment, they could sign up for that. If they wanted to do waste reduction, they could sign up for that. So again, it kind of lets the kids choose what they're passionate about, which is a really big part of inclusion. They're not necessarily told what they can do, but they're the ones who choose what they want to do. And inside of that, they find a group of people who are also passionate about that. Our communication and promotion team is what the work they're doing. I was blown away when I saw it, but we have another teacher who helps me lead it. And these kids made their own stickers about turning off lights, turning off projectors, going around the school. And actually they're going to put some up at the bakery down the street from us. But they came up with their own sticker designs on Microsoft Word, and we said, make 2 or 3. By the end of the weekend, the teacher and I who coordinated this, we got over 60 different stickers from these kids which just kind of shows like all the passions that they're involved in. Since they wanted to do it, they ran with it, right? And I think we'll see some of the gardening pictures later, but right now we have a tower planter, we have bottle planters, we have a small vegetable garden in almost every classroom, all because these kids chose to go plant. So by giving kids opportunity to pursue their passions and do what they want to do, our eco team has kind of made everyone feel included, made everyone want to do what they want to do, not being told what they want to do. And yes, so there are some of our vegetable gardens. Our lettuce is already growing. We recycle all of our bottles and make little planters out of those. I got myself a little Costco garden, so my class is enjoying that right now. And the last strategy that I'm going to share with you today is community activities and excursions. So, eco teams are great because kids get a new way to learn and appreciate the environment. But at the end of the day, it is still a team. It's a team that needs to come together and work together. So when my colleagues and I were sitting down and kind of planning, like, how are we going to get kids invested? How are we going to get kids to come out to meetings? How are we going to make sure that commitment they show in the first meeting is the same commitment they're going to show at the end of the meeting? So one of the best ways that we kind of do this and also promote community through our group is doing a bunch of activities with the group in the school, outside of the school, whenever we can, really. This includes things like just little things like staying in and watching a movie. So the other day, we just made a bunch of eco-friendly popcorn because one of our teachers is a chef and somehow had a recipe for that. And we stayed in and watched the Netflix series, Our Planet, right? So the kids got to see a bunch of different places in the world that they wouldn't have seen before. We watched the one on jungles, and some kid got to see a tiger and has been researching tigers ever since. Not only is it a little way to keep kids excited and invested, but like it's just a nice break. It's nice to sit as a team, hang out, watch popcorn, see or learn about something that they're all passionate about. Another aspect to this is we do a lot of excursions out into the community. So these are a bunch of images from some of the excursions that we've gone on. Our school is very close to the Humber River in a small place called Smythe Park. So right down here is from our trip to Smythe Park, where we actually showed them how they could conduct their own pond study. We got them a bunch of strainers from Dollarama. They were able to go through, find pollution tolerant and pollution intolerant species in the pond, and they made a conclusion whether their pond was polluted or not. So not only did they get out into the environment, but they got to learn about if their environment is being polluted and how they can stop it and stuff. We also went on another trip to the Humber River to see the salmon jumping earlier in the year. And we also just do a lot of activities outside. Like we showed them how to make fire with flint and steel using magnifying glass and stuff like that. So getting the students involved in the eco team gives them an opportunity to kind of have excursions in their community and with nature, where they develop an appreciation for it and see the nature in their community so they can learn more about it and be more excited about it. The last thing about that is our principal, who's been so lovely and so awesome about signing off on eco team stuff. She's already agreed to let us take the whole eco team on a trip to High Park at the end of the year. So after we're done all of our eco initiatives, after we're done our certification process for eco schools, we decided it'd be awesome if the kids got a chance to have fun and show what they've learned in a real environment. So we're going to take all of our eco team to High Park just for a day, hang out, go on hikes, play in that super big castle park that all the kids love. And again, it really creates a great community within the team and amongst the students themselves, right? So that's a lot. I think that's it. Yes, that's it from my end. And hopefully those strategies are helpful. Like I said, it's really simple things, and it's about making the team and making kids invested in it. And I'm sure everybody has their own way of doing it, but if the kids are having fun in the environment, then the environment is going to have fun with them. That's all I got.
Oh, thank you, Matt. That's awesome. I really am disappointed that you didn't invite me to the popcorn meeting. I could have come. And of course, doing flint and steel, maybe teaching them how to light the school on fire isn't, oh, right, you're not doing that. You're just teaching them how to light a fire. Okay, good. No. Next is Melody. And Melody is a middle school French and ESL teacher and a mom. That's often when our values really come out, when we see what is it that we want to give to our own children. But a 2-year-old adventurous little girl. And you have a background in nutritional science, so you probably know how to do the popcorn.
I don't think so. I'm going to have to get that recipe.
Yes. And Melody, you've always been passionate about how a healthy environment is connected to healthy minds and bodies. On becoming an educator, this turned into a passion in facilitating opportunities to educate and empower young students to care about their planet. And I know from firsthand, your students adore you and what you do. So I thank you for sharing your stories about that today. All right, over to you.
Thank you, Pam, and thank you for having me. You weren't kidding when you said Matt's going to be a hard person to follow, because that was a fantastic presentation, and I'm definitely inspired. So I'll be reaching out a little bit more about the High Park field trip at the end of the year. So I teach in middle school, and I feel like as humans, we started looking at everything pre-COVID and post-COVID. So I think about, how eco was looked at pre-COVID, and I came from a setting where I was at a middle school in the Don Mills community, and I happened to be on a campus. I don't know if you're all familiar with Don Mills Institute, but they house a beautiful urban garden, and Dan Kinetic is just this awesome celebrity. So I sort of came from that setting where we had this cross-campus eco team that we had built from K to 12, where students from the primary school across the street would come over, and we would have these team meetings between the primary school, the middle school, and the high school, and we plan an eco fair every year. And of course, like many teachers, I got surplused in 2019 and started at a new school that did not have an eco presence at all. When I started at my new school, which I'm at now at Gordon A. Brown, when I met with the teacher that was running the eco team at the school, similar challenges to I think many of us, had a really hard time with getting students to commit, just had a really hard time with getting students to sign up. And I remember sitting down with him and saying, well, what is it about eco that makes it sort of uncool for students? And what is it about other clubs in the school that, you know, students are rushing to join? So we kind of took a step back from it, and we realized that a lot of what eco was doing in the school was just policing, and not to bash the whole certification process, but he said that at the end of the year, it was just a big mad dash to like check off boxes and made sure that they fulfilled all their criteria to get gold or platinum or whatever it was that they were trying to achieve. And I said, well, maybe we need to change the way we look at the way we run things. So we sort of surveyed some of the students that, you know, were in our classes, and we said, well, if you had a choice to join a club this year, what would you join? And everyone said student council. So we said, okay, what is student council doing that's so cool and fun that eco isn't doing? And why is it that everyone's rushing to join student council and not eco? And we realized student council is planning all the events at school, student council is having all the fun at school, and all eco is doing is going around having these audits. And I think by October and November, a lot of the students were had the feeling that it was taxing and that it was boring, so they would just drop out. So we said, okay, let's reframe how we look at eco, and let's have a little bit more fun with it. So we decided we weren't going to bring up certification at our first meeting. We weren't going to talk about it at all. We were just going to let the students run with their ideas. So one of the things that we did was we looked at the first event that student council generally runs in the school, and we looked at Halloween, and we said, okay, what can we do for Halloween that could be fun? And the students came up with an idea to have a zombie plant revival contest. So students and staff around the school had the opportunity to drop off their plants that they thought were dead or dying, and for a nominal fee, the eco team would revive the plants, which led to some great conversations, because I think most people think that when plants, you know, look dead, they're dead, but they're not. And it led to conversations about how resilient plants are, and, you know, the resources that they need to be revived. And we got into planting things because some of the plants were actually dead. So we got into doing some planting, and for a nominal fee, all these classrooms and all these people that had dropped off their plants got these beautiful, luscious plants back. So that, you know, added some excitement. And then we start to see more people coming to meetings because more people wanted to be sort of part of this. One of the other things that we looked at was Valentine's Day, and we decided that we would do a plantogram for Valentine's Day. So instead of doing the general candygrams that student council or other committees usually do, we said, why don't we have a plantogram where people can buy plants that they could donate to, or they can have delivered to an admirer or to a staff member with a little note. So we sort of just looked at how we can turn our eco club, and we could change the focus from just being certification based and audit based and policing the school, and making it sort of this fun club where, you know, the kids come in and organize events, and we've just generally had a lot of good traction with that.
Amazing. I have to say, the zombie reviving plant thing, I'm taking that idea and spreading it. But you're right. You know, even my own daughter didn't want to be part of an eco team because of the policing. And, you know, well, all we have to do is garbage. And I think you really touched on that, both you and Matt, and I'm sure Cynthia and Alexandra will as well. Like, when students are engaged with what they want to do and what they see is important, it makes all the difference. So well done. I'm just so excited about what you've shared. All right, so next on our, again, terrific teachers, I love that title, is Cynthia. And Cynthia, thank you again. You've done webinars for us in the past, and so thank you for actually coming back and still loving us. But you've been an educator with the TDSB for over 20 years. Amazing. When that seniority thing down, you go, how is that possible? But right now, in grade 7-8 at Taylor Creek Public School, and you really like finding ways you can take that curriculum and integrate it with outdoor learning, experiential learning, and a really important part is that eco-justice. You've been the champion and you've helped Taylor Creek maintain platinum level eco status for the past 7 years. Take it away, Cynthia.
Yay! Thank you for the introduction. And of course, I love being here and sharing the awesomeness that's going on at our school and my passion for eco schools. So yeah, I think I will start. I have so much to say. And the previous speakers, you've totally given me other things to think about that I want to touch on. But I'm going to try to stick with this. So welcome, everybody. I don't know where you're at, but we're in a pandemic right now. And so the activities that have been shown, like those were absolutely incredible. I don't know what percentage of people like have an active running eco team versus those that are maybe considering for the first time. But regardless, as Pam said, we've been in a platinum level eco school for the last 7 years and an eco school overall for 13 years. And I have been a part of it for 12 of the 13. So I love it, but it is a lot of work. I tell my colleagues, like, it's the only extracurricular that runs all year. So it's not like a little season, but you're doing it from September to June and you're being graded or evaluated on it. So given that, I love that Melody talked about the pre-post pandemic. I teach at a small school of about 400 students, and we are a model school, which means that the people in my community have a lot of external factors that they're dealing with, and those were exacerbated by the pandemic. So I feel like the work, just based on where I teach and the fact that I'm a racialized woman in a field where there's not a lot of role models for me, oh, I just lost my train of thought. So I've kind of gone back to basics, and I really feel like this year I wanted to focus on relationships. Like, as all of you know, being a teacher, like, teaching is 1000% about the relationships that you have with your students, and the more time you spend on those relationships, just the better quality of learning that comes out of everything. And the eco team is really no different. And so whether you're starting from ground zero or whether you're having to do some rebuilding again, my greatest advice would really be to invest in the relationships. Take the time. Everybody has a different pandemic story. So take the time to find out those stories. Like, some teachers would feel overwhelmed by Matt's presentation, and some people are already there. So just the more empathy you can have as an eco lead is understanding like where your community's at. And so just, leading by example in that way, and like really getting to know like how this pandemic's impacted parents, the caretakers, office admin, like, because all of those people you're going to need in your corner when you're doing things with your team, and just being open and honest with them. Like, sometimes I've heard from schools like, oh, I can't get my caretakers on board, but it's because they felt like it was going to be a lot of extra work. And then when we actually like communicated with each other, they realized, oh, actually our kids are taking some work off your plate. So just, having clear expectations with people on what it is that you need from them, and then just keeping in mind of how the pandemic has impacted them and how they may receive it. So we've really tried to focus on our positivity, kindness, and joy, and incorporating joy. So I love that Melody touched on how important that is too. And also like sharing yourself with your community. The underneath part where I say know your community, and I have used the word Ubuntu, and it's actually an African word that means humanity to others. It's often described as reminding us of reminding us that I am what I am because of who we all are. And a person's value as a human being depends on acting for the sake of community and promoting community interests before self-interest. And I feel like there's a lot of connections there with, kind of westernized views and colonized views versus indigenous views. And I think that some of the struggles our students have is they come from cultures that have more of that community vibe versus the everyone for themselves. And so there's kind of like that struggle to fit into society while also, doing kind of what's inherently more suited to them. So I really like this idea, and I try to encourage it in my students. And as staff, I feel like things we need to reflect on are, how invested are you in your community? And because if you want buy-in and commitment from the kids, they're looking at you. So if you are just kind of showing up and you're only there for the community when you're there and then you're gone, longevity wise as an eco club, they may not invest in it because they may not really feel like you actually care. And so, what is your commitment to your school community and how do you show it? Whose voices are amplified in your community and whose voices are missing? And then what are you doing to maybe try to amplify the missing voices? So at our school, sorting waste was kind of an issue that we struggle with. And I did a simple survey like on a Google form and found out that 50% of our students, at least from grade 4 to grade 8, don't have access to recycling at home. Well, no wonder they're struggling with it at school. So then as the eco team, we actually took that on and this was right before the pandemic, so we haven't followed through with it, but we were in motions of writing to the property managers of those buildings and a lot of Toronto public housing to say, hey, how can we get the same services that a lot of other people in the city have? But I know there's a lot of assumptions about, how our community treats the environment. And some of it has just simply to do with the circumstances that they're in and not a choice they would actually make if they were able. And then I just had some kind of pictures here. So I have been teaching at my school for the past, so it's 22 years on the board, but I think it's 12 at the current school that I'm at. And we are surrounded by Toronto public housing. Our school, we score 4.2 on the Fraser yada yada. Our community was ranked 138 out of 140 on different polls, and yet I couldn't be happier. I love where I teach. I love the property that the land our school is on is amazing. And they see me out on it all the time. I'm constantly, the bird photos are mine. I've discovered so many different species of birds that I'm sharing with them. And actually, I love on the bottom left, there is a bird picture that one of my students took. And this was the student who's ADHD. I never in a million years would have expected. He was in the nature area being so super quiet and managed to get that blue-eyed vireo or blue-headed vireo on his phone. And then I was like, yeah, nice ninja skills. And then that presence of our students wanting to better their community. That's really the reason I'm there. I want them to feel proud of where they live and where they're from. And I don't want them to think of it as a place they need to escape, but a place that they want to uplift. And it's been awesome. We've been able to do that. The bottom picture, you can see the girl with the blonde hair. That was her in grade 1, ripping out dog strangling vine. And then there was her last year as a grade 7 student, still committed and helping take care of our nature area. And I actually, although this was really curricular, but I have some eco team members there presenting. I'm just in the midst of publishing an article that's going to be in Voice Magazine's spring issue, where there's a empty plot of land at 685 Warden, which is just down the street from where we are. And it's empty right now. It's been vacant forever. And the plan to go in there is 6 13 to 36 story buildings. And for like, it's gentrification at its finest. It's not doing anything to alleviate the needs of the people that are currently in the community. So my students, we designed a sustainable community. Hey, you're the architects and engineers that are now have this land. What are we going to put here? And so again, I would love for our eco team to actually contact the developers and see if our student voice can't be heard, because they have some amazing ideas for what they would put on that land in place of what's actually there. And yeah, and just having fun being outside and enjoying outside and finding the nature that does exist. So even for being in Scarborough, it's amazing how much we actually have accessible to us, and getting them to see it and then appreciate it. And of course, involving the community and parents is super important too. So building relationships is my theme.
Thank you, Cynthia. And you've always been about relationships. And as well, Hillary put in the chat about asset-based, instead of deficit-based thinking, it's asset and promise and uplifting kids and uplifting the community, because it's no surprise. We know that environmental movements have been so racist, and people haven't been able to see themselves. And so a key part is making sure that students' identity is considered when we're building those relationships, and who they are and the wonderful gifts that they have. And that's one of your gifts, Cynthia, is to bring out the best in others. And I still remember that first day I met you wandering around Taylor Creek area and looking at all the promise that how we could use the space. So thank you again. All right, so without further ado, Alexandra, you're next, and you're currently teaching French immersion. And again, you made the mistake of coming by at the conference saying hello, and then we roped you in. It was just sort of like, you'll do this, right? So thank you for coming along. You're at Darlington Public School, and you're passionate about learning and taking care of the environment in every part of your life. And it's no surprise that all of you have that life value that just comes out in your teaching. And so, of course, leading the eco team was no surprise. And you've got some other colleagues at school which are alongside. And you hope to inspire really to change the whole community. So thanks for being here, and thanks for raising your hand and saying yes.
Thanks, Pam, and thanks, Hillary, for having me. Hello, I'm Alexandra, as Pam said. Lots of familiar faces and lots of new faces. So thank you for sharing your time, and happy to be here again. And to Linda Ryan, who I took the environmental AQ this summer, so recommend if you haven't done that. And yeah, so I'm currently at Darlington Public School, and it's my first year there. It's my fourth year with the TDSB, so it's been a little bit challenging putting the work that I want to share with the staff and the community and the students, because I've been in 4 years in 4 different schools, I'll be being a permanent teacher. So I am at Goumakos this year teaching French immersion, and big draw, even just having, when I was going through interview process after being surplus last year, Darlington Public School in North York, not far from where I live, has this beautiful pollinator wall, and we're attached to Toronto public park that also has a pollinator garden, and it's a community garden actually where the whole community is involved. Right now, not much is going on, of course, but so I'm hoping in the spring things will pick up and I'll get to meet those people, because I haven't had the chance yet. We're a K-5 school, so and dual track, because I'm in French immersion. So although it's a small school, we still have I think just like under 500 kids, so it's a pretty big school, and opened up to for Eco Club grades 3 to 5 in either side. And we And just a little bit more about this mural, which because even growing up in the TDSB and being at different schools, I've never seen anything like it. And I'm sure there are, but it was definitely new for me. It was through the David Suzuki Foundation and the Street Art Toronto Partnership Program by Nick Sweetman as the artist, and it was done in 2019. So it's relatively new to the area, but it's just beautiful coming and seeing that every day. And as a learning point that hopefully, sharing and learning about the staff and the work that they've done, but all the work that we do in, for, and about the environment. And so I will talk, I have 3 strategies more or less, and a lot of it will be overlap of the other presenters, amazing work that they're also doing. So I'll try to not go too much if it's already been said. And so the first meeting, I think we had over 60 students come to the library. So it was extremely overwhelming, and being a new teacher and teaching kindergarten, which we started around late September, I didn't know any of them more or less. And the lovely teacher who was running the lead last year, she was going on maternity leave shortly. So I knew right away, similar like a lot of the other staff that do this work, is building relationships was going to be really important. And even though there was such a huge turnout, we basically started with what do you want to do here, and instilling that student leadership, because again, the kids didn't know me, the staff didn't really know me that well, I didn't know them, and really take away and also kind of the people that did really want to be there and have been committing every week since on a weekly basis, and the kids who want to go outside and play, which is okay as well, and keeping the door open, to whoever wants to come and help out. So we started off by playing after the first initial, kind of get to know you, playing a lot of games, which I found is really helpful. And just simple things, talking with other educators, and not necessarily like this has to be for Eco Club, but also sharing about what they can do in their classes. So we did a simple game with Animal Eye, always have goose paper and, things to write with available. And they got to pick an animal, and it was just a way to interact just amongst each other, builds a sense of community. And yes, there's these smiley faces, but if I could share them, they actually are smiling. So they're really nice. It was a nice way to share, and also with the community that it's up, which I'll show in a little bit. And Kahoot, which some of them were familiar with. If you're an educator, it's also a really great way to introduce new concepts. And just like Cynthia was saying, a lot of them, just based on where they live, they didn't know what composting was, didn't know what recycling was. So again, restarting those strategies and waste management into the school was a little bit of a challenge. Not having any green bins, taking a long time. My mom even helping me just getting buckets, like finding people who can just donate things, just to get things going, and really, getting them starting kind of from ground zero and not having been there. And the school was platinum, through Eco Schools, and it wasn't something that I started off strong to say that this is something I think we need to focus, because we need to really just get back to basics and, work together on that, and start with the team and then branch it out to the entire school, of course. So there has been changes around, who's there and who's not there. And now that wonderful teacher who was supporting is on maternity leave. So then every staff meeting, I'm like, who wants to help? And not everyone's always invested, but also asking for the time to just share about what we're doing and, get other people more involved and having those conversations. And yeah, working with caretaking, ensuring that the waste programs are running properly, students, and again, parent involvement, community involvement. I'm also currently coaching basketball, and we have a parent who's helping coach, also extending those to opportunities to Eco Club, which hopefully soon, when we, get outside and do other things that the kids really want to do, like pick up trash and, more intentional things instead of just the free play that they want to do, which we also do as a team, that we'll get more parents so we can go on more excursions, like Matt was saying. So yeah, we do a lot of that, and it's really what they want to do. I think every week, are we going to play a Kahoot? Can we play a Kahoot? So it's a really effective way, and there's a lot of things, and even getting them to design it. So that's a lot of fun. And then another really big way that we, try to create community, beyond Eco Club, is planning events. So if you're familiar with the Eco School certification, which has also been new to me since the few years of my teaching career have kind of been up in the air. There were strikes, there's the pandemic. And last year at the school that I was at, we just did it internally. There was no, intention to do any certification. It was just to get, kids and staff involved. And again, that was kind of where we're at. And we are working on the certification this year. But having them plan events and take me outside, day and organization, really great. And having the kids plan it. So again, the student leaders, posters, announcements, surveys, activities, they surveyed using Google Form to get all of the classes about what they wanted to do. Getting administration, principal, and saying that it's okay that we can get the whole school to go outside together and have a sense of that community and really just whatever they wanted to do. So we had lots of things like free play. It was in the fall, the first time we did it, Leaf Fun, student design obstacle courses, and all led by students. We had animal guessing games, scavenger hunts in French and English, a lot of access to both languages, just free drawing in our beautiful garden, exploring the garden, having essentially sit spots, and then debriefing about what we want to do for the next time, and even hearing from staff, we should do this every month, even if it's just for an afternoon, even if it's just for an hour. So that's been really positive and something that we are working on for winter, Take Me Outside Day, and hopefully we can do it soon with all the snow, but just about what they want to do, and then sharing all that messaging as much as possible with the community through Twitter, just through word of mouth, and again, through the students spreading the word as well. So we're planning, and our last meeting last week, we meet every Thursday. There was no snow, so we had to talk about what could we do with snow or without snow, because we don't have a date yet. But these are just some ideas. They were working on it and planning, again, to design the surveys and what they want to do and get the school involved. And then, so I think beyond, Eco Club, just getting everyone else involved as much as possible and building those relationships with as many people as possible, which can be scary, but, tell your friends, and more people do come, and allowing them to, if they want to go outside to play recess, that's okay, because we do meet at lunch, and we have a very short time. So even opening it to maybe more times a week or having additional meetings, because there's just so much to do. And it feels like a long, 10 months of a school year, but to do all the things that you want to do, it can be time consuming, but very fun, and again, student led. And then sharing. So we had this board that was designated to Eco Club, and even since last year, it was just empty. And I think initially it said waste audit. So again, talking about those, instead of just policing, like what else the other presenters were saying, what else can we do? And so I asked them, we asked them as a team, like, what do you want the board to look like? And they said they wanted to show with the school what we were working on. So this is sort of how it started. In the beginning, it's all student designed, exception of the pictures that we've tried to include everyone as much as possible, and then adding the months. So now it looks like this, and we're on our way into January. So just a little bit every month about what we're doing. And this is in the main hallway, so everyone can see it. And hopefully that's been helpful. We're working on getting more outside, adding gardens, and thank you, Matt, for the Eco Squad idea. I really like that. So hopefully I'm going to be able to incorporate that. And that's all. Thanks.
Oh, this is fabulous. Thank you, Alexandra. The idea that you've taken the small community and you've really reached out and made the whole school part of it, and now they want more. You just kind of showed them is like what's possible, and this theme of relationships is, in building community. Obviously, we knew that was important, but we talked about this pandemic. We're still in a pandemic, and we need relationships and community more than ever. And each of you have brought that alive in a way that you're honoring your student voice, you're honoring student choice, you're listening to your students. And absolutely abandon, like I'm the Eco School lead, abandon the certification because connecting with our hearts and then, our hands and our head is more important. That's the bigger goal, is that we really embrace that the environment is in us, about us, and we're for it, and just that whole big picture. And so thank you. You've really shown us how to sort of scale up. And it's just one idea, and it's just a seed that's growing as well. So thank you. And the board, for sure, you can be sure that we'll put that in some other Eco Schools publications, because Jen's nodding her head going, yeah, that's like a best practice idea too. So I think this point is 4:55. So we've got a wrap up and then time for questions. Over to you, Hillary.
Thank you, Pam. Thanks very much. And thank you to all of our teachers. It's so exciting to see what you're able to do. And Cynthia, I really appreciated you emphasizing that we are still in a pandemic. It is still a very challenging time to be teaching in schools these days. And I appreciated your recognition of that. And yet it's still so impressive what you're all able to do in terms of building community and really making a space for students and parents and other staff members to come together to start to plant those seeds with our students, especially the younger ones, in terms of how they can contribute towards a more sustainable and equitable world. And I think that's so important. So thank you very much to all four of you. I know we've got some other experienced eco teachers in the room, and I'm just wondering if anybody wants to contribute their strategies to add to this conversation. I know we're getting close to our 5 o'clock limit, but I'm happy to welcome a few more if anybody else would like to contribute. Okay, not seeing any obvious hands popping up. Feel free to pop stuff in the chat and absolutely your questions as well. At this point, I am going to just ask you to, if you don't mind, complete the feedback poll on today's webinar. And I'm going to share screen just one last time just to let you know what's coming down the pipe for upcoming events. We've got lots of events happening at OISE this week. We've actually started a new series on sharing research that focuses on sustainability, climate action, and its intersections with education over the next 6 weeks. So you're welcome. The first one's tomorrow. It's like a lunch and learn. So if you're able to squeak out from 12:30 to 1, it's an online event, and you'd be more than welcome to join us with Fagila Nimalo and Preeti Nayak, who are going to be speaking about their work in eco-justice education, actually. So well worth coming to attend if you can. And there will be recordings. So if you want, for any of these events that are on the screen right now, just register for them and you'll get sent the recording after the fact. So even if you can't make them live, you're welcome to join us afterwards. We're just in the process of setting up the February event for Eco Schools. So we'll let you know about that one. I will say that we're giving our progress report on our own sustainability and climate action plan at OISE coming up on February 8th with our new dean, which we're excited to welcome Dr. Erica Walker to that role. And I will say that, it's exciting because that it definitely signals and builds on the work that we've been doing with the TDSB. The idea for our plan initially came because the TDSB was planning theirs. And we sort of been growing these in tandem. And so I really give all the tribute to the TDSB for starting this process at the OISE end, which is really exciting for us. So come hear what we're doing for progress. And the last one is we've got a new community of practice happening at U of T around sustainability pedagogy. So what are the teaching strategies that we should be doing with our students that make sense? How do we align the content of sustainability along with our teaching strategies? So that's the one that's happening on February 16th. And that one's later in the day, so that might work with your teaching schedule a little bit better. So you're welcome to attend any of these free webinars. So thank you again to our teachers for presenting. Lots of ways to get in touch with us. Please follow the Eco Schools newsletter. This is a great way to stay in touch and to know what opportunities are coming down the pipe for new projects that Pam and Jen and Chris are all working on to support teachers' work in this area. So thank you for attending today. We're going to stop the recording at this point, and we welcome you to stay in the room and have a chat or ask questions or offer ideas. So please do that as you'd like.